Tonight, you are going to walk into your bathroom. You will shut the door. You will turn off the main lights, leaving only a tiny crack of light coming from beneath the doorway. You will stand directly in front of the mirror and stare deeply into your own eyes. At first, everything will seem normal. You will see your familiar outline. But as the seconds tick by, something deeply unsettling will begin to happen. Your nose will seem to drift. Your mouth will dissolve into a dark, hollow gap. A completely different face will begin to stare back at you from the glass. It might look like a stranger. It might look like a deceased relative. It might even look like a snarling, monstrous beast. Why does your own reflection turn against you in the dark? You might think this is just an overactive imagination. You might believe in old urban legends, like Bloody Mary. You might even think a malevolent spirit is lurking behind the cold glass. But the real answer is far stranger. Your brain is not haunted by ghosts. It is haunted by its own ancient, hardwired machinery. Your mind is actually conducting a high-speed, desperate search for survival. It is just doing it in a dimly lit room where the rules of reality no longer apply. This terrifying illusion has tormented humans for thousands of years. Ancient civilizations believed that mirrors were portals to other dimensions. They thought a person's soul could be trapped inside the cold, reflective surface. They warned children never to look at their reflection by candlelight. But science did not begin to truly dissect this mystery until the early 19th century. In 1804, a Swiss physician and philosopher named Ignaz Paul Vital Troxler made a peculiar observation about how humans see. He was not studying mirrors or monsters. He was studying how the eyes process unchanging visual information. Troxler noticed that if you stare intensely at a single point, the objects in your peripheral vision will slowly begin to fade away. They will completely dissolve into the background. Why does this happen? Your visual system is built to detect change. It is designed to notice a rustling leaf, a darting predator, or a shifting shadow. It is not built to pay attention to things that never move. When you stare at one spot, the sensory receptors in your eyes become tired. They undergo a process called neural adaptation. They decide that the unchanging objects around your focus are no longer important. So, your brain simply stops processing them. It fills in the gaps with the surrounding colors. It deletes the static world to save processing power. Do you want to see this in action? Imagine walking into a room with a ticking clock. At first, the sound is incredibly loud. You hear every single tick. But after 10 minutes, the sound completely vanishes from your conscious mind. Your ears have adapted to the noise. Your brain decided that the repetitive tick was not a threat. It muted the sound to keep you alert for new, unexpected noises. Troxler realized that your eyes do the exact same thing with light. But when you apply this biological trick to a mirror in a dark room, the consequences are deeply unsettling. For over 2 centuries, Troxler's fading remained a fascinating quirk of basic vision science. It was mostly demonstrated in quiet laboratories using simple colored dots on paper. But in 2010, an Italian psychologist named Giovanni Caputo at the University of Urbino decided to take this concept to a dark, psychological extreme. He wanted to see what would happen if the static stimulus was not a colored dot, but a human face. Specifically, your own face. Caputo brought 50 healthy young adults into a dimly lit room. He placed a large mirror exactly 40 centimeters in front of them. The room was lit only by a tiny, weak light bulb positioned behind their chairs so that no direct light hit the mirror. He told them to do one simple thing. They had to stare into their own eyes in the mirror for 10 minutes. They were instructed to minimize their blinking and keep their gaze locked. What they experienced in that short session shocked the scientific community. Within less than 60 seconds, every single participant began to hallucinate. They did not just see slight blurs. They saw complete, terrifying transformations. 66% of the participants reported massive, fluid deformations of their own faces. 48% saw monstrous or demonic beings staring back at them. 28% saw an entirely unknown stranger. Others saw the faces of deceased parents, archetypal old women, or even wild animals like cats and pigs. The illusion was so powerful that many of them felt a deep sense of otherness. They felt as though the entity in the mirror was watching them with a malicious, enigmatic expression. Some experienced intense panic. Why did their own reflection feel so hostile? To answer this, you have to understand how your brain processes faces. Humans are incredibly social creatures. Your survival has always depended on your ability to read the expressions of others. Because of this, your brain has a highly specialized, hyper-efficient region dedicated entirely to faces. It is called the fusiform face area, or the FFA. The FFA is a neural supercomputer. It does not just look at a face as a random collection of skin, eyes, and hair. It instantly binds these individual features into a single, cohesive shape. It reads micro-expressions in milliseconds. It detects whether someone is a friend or an enemy before you even register it consciously. But this system is so sensitive that it has a major flaw. It is incredibly prone to false positives. It is constantly looking for faces, even when there are none to be found. This is why you see faces in the front grills of cars. It is why you spot eyes staring at you from the knots in wooden doors. It is why you see a smiling face on the surface of the moon. This psychological phenomenon is called pareidolia. Your brain would rather mistake a plastic socket for a face than mistake a real human face for an inanimate object. But under the low-light conditions of Caputo's experiment, this face-seeking machine completely breaks down. When you stare into the mirror in a dark room, your eyes are receiving highly degraded visual information. The edges of your nose, your cheeks, and your jawline are blurry and unstable. Because you are staring locked at your pupils, Troxler's Fading begins to delete your peripheral features. Your ears, your hair, and your chin start to dissolve into the dark background. Your brain suddenly realizes it is looking in a highly incomplete, corrupted image. It is missing key data points. And a missing face is a massive threat to your survival. This is where evolutionary panic sets in. Your brain cannot tolerate an incomplete face. It refuses to leave the canvas blank. So, it begins to actively guess. It takes the tiny, fluctuating shadows on your skin and tries to reconstruct the missing features. It uses its vast database of human, animal, and archetypal faces to fill in the dark gaps. It is essentially painting a new face over your own reflection. But why are these reconstructed faces so often terrifying? Why do you see demons instead of smiling friends? To understand this, we have to go back to your ancestors on the ancient African savanna. Imagine you are a prehistoric human sleeping in a dark cave. The night is pitch black. Out in the bushes, you hear a faint rustle. You look into the shadows. Your brain can make one of two mistakes. It can assume the shadow is a harmless bush when it is actually a hiding predator. If you make this mistake, you die. Or, your brain can assume the shadow is a terrifying predator when it is actually just a harmless bush. If you make this mistake, you stay alert, you survive, and you pass on your genes. Your brain was designed by millions of years of natural selection to assume the worst. It is programmed to interpret ambiguous, low-contrast stimuli as threats. It would rather terrify you with a hallucinated monster than let you ignore a potential danger. When you stare into that dark mirror, your brain is trying to solve an ambiguous puzzle in a state of sensory deprivation. It looks at the fading, shifting shadows of your own face and assumes a predator is lurking right in front of you. It projects your deepest evolutionary fears directly onto your reflection. It turns you into the monster to keep you safe. Today, you live in a world of artificial light. You have bright LED screens, streetlights, and glowing displays that banish the darkness. You rarely experience the absolute, silent blackness of your ancestors. But your primitive brain has not changed. It is still running the exact same survival software that kept your ancestors alive in the wilderness. The next time you stand before a mirror in a dimly lit room, remember what is actually happening. You are not looking at a ghost. You are not looking at a demon or a portal to another world. You are looking at a living, breathing map of your own evolutionary past. You are witnessing your brain's ancient survival mechanisms firing at full speed, desperately trying to protect you from a threat that does not exist. Your mind is a brilliant, paranoid protector. It is willing to sacrifice your sanity and make you fear your own face, just to ensure you survive another night. So go ahead. Walk into the bathroom tonight. Shut the door. Turn off the lights and stare deeply into the glass. But do not be surprised when the stranger looking back at you does not smile. You are staring into a mirror of your ancient survival,